you possibly can. You can email the studio directly here at studio@salamradio.co.uk. That's Salam with a double A. Text or WhatsApp directly to 07745 278 978. And alternatively, you're welcome to call straight into the actual main studio on 01733 602 133. So, 2019, the first Salam Radio Empower Hour show in 2019. I am so proud to have brought with me an amazing guest today, which I shall cover a little bit more information on very shortly. But I just wanted to welcome everybody back. It's our Tuesday slot, Tuesday evening between 7 p.m. and 8 p.m. every week. Your committed host, Sukhi Wahiwala from the dynasty of Wahiwala family, but I'm here to assist everybody with empowerment. That is our focus for 2019. So please do interact and do communicate and do text in. You've heard all the details a moment ago. Just before we start, I'd like to just share a little bit of information, and I'd like to really thank all of our listeners, our community and our followers here in Peterborough and around the globe who listen to the Salam Radio Empower Hour program with myself, Sukhi Wahiwala. My thanks goes out to everybody from my heart, and it's because obviously in December, when I took a sabbatical through the actual month of December through to January now being the first show today, I just wanted to explain to yourself very, very simply what actually happened. Sadly, I lost my mum and Mrs. Wahiwala Senior. Her name was Gurmeet Kaur, and we basically as a family just took some time out, and we were overwhelmed with the love, adoration for such a humble soul. Been involved with my father and my family in business 16 years, and has delivered so much love into the community. So on behalf of the Wahiwala family and myself, Sukhi Wahiwala, and Randir Wahiwala, my father, we would like to thank everybody on a personal level. So now, back to the tonight's show. Boy, have we got a treat. We have a person who has probably, in his own humble way, not even shown his success to the world, his positioning within the community, and actually his appointment directly with Her Majesty the Queen herself. This is an amazing pleasure. Not only is this gentleman a good friend, more importantly, somebody who I sincerely look up to, an individual who has been iconic within the Peterborough community, assisting on multi-levels. His name is Mr. Dr. Jaspal Singh here in Peterborough. I'll bring him in just a moment. Let me just touch a little bit on his background. I'm not joking, audience. This is going to be an amazing interview of sincere but bare basics, humility, through to what I call it soaring, with the eagles today, being at the top of his game. This gentleman, Mr. Jaspal, I've taken an evidence from him, and I've actually sat down and authorized myself and said, is it okay if I just call you? Because he's actually an older brother to myself as well, and I'd like to just call him Jaspal for today. But he is a doctorate in ophthalmic optics. This gentleman has cut the way for the Peterborough community in the sincere ability in being able to show the heights of achievement. He is currently, well, I'll come to that in a moment. He has spent 20 years chairing the Peterborough Interfaith Council here in communities of all backgrounds. 20 years, team. 5 times he has been the president of the Sikh Temple here in Peterborough. That is such an amazing achievement within itself. It's a sincere pleasure to also let everybody know, our listeners, tonight we are going to have a journey of sincere humility and empowerment. Truly, he is the Deputy Lord Lieutenant of Cambridgeshire. I said the Deputy Lord Lieutenant of Cambridgeshire. This is just an amazing pleasure. May I introduce my brother, my friend, my mentor, Mr. Dr. Jaspal Singh. Please welcome.
Good evening, Sukhi, and may I say it's a wonderful pleasure and a great honour to be here in this fantastic building, radio station. And firstly, I would like to pass my condolences to you on the passing away of your mother. And as I mentioned earlier on in the community, is when we lose an elder, it's not only the family who loses a member, the extended family also lose a very valued person. So condolences and congratulations to you on this fantastic program of yours, and I feel very honoured and privileged to be here.
Thank you so very much on every level, and for myself being a younger brother to yourself, to receive such warm-hearted wishes and also congratulations, I would like to say thank you very much as well. But I'm just blown away. I have only 1 hour with you, 2 slots of 26 minutes. Team, in the first half an hour I'm going to go through some deep questions about your journey here, and this is not what we call the Empower Hour. Is designed not to be an environment where we preempt all the questions and we know exactly what's going on. This is about being real and honest for everybody here. So if you can hear and you can see us live, tune in on 106.2 FM. Alternatively, please tune in to our Facebook live page, which is Salam Radio, or go on to YouTube Live. Now, this actual broadcast is going global. We have such an amazing footfall just outside Peterborough as well. It's a national and international program, and we're really truly humbled to have you here once again. So for the sake of this particular interview, I may call you Jaspal Singh just because it's easier, or Mr. Jaspal, or just Jaspal, because it could be easier. And please don't take that as personal, because I have the utmost respect for yourself as a human being myself personally. So I'm going to go back, because in the first half of our 1 hour slot, we're very, very specific, and I've designed it in such a way that we go back into kind of your earlier generations and earlier memories, so we can see, as such a coveted individual who's managed to be at the top of their tree of every single element they've gone, including actually a practicing ophthalmist as well as an optometrist, and assisting in so many I could say, in essence, tithing and such seva, such understanding of zakat, all these elements which are basically charitable understanding, and the list goes on. But before we go back into that section of what we're talking about, where you've been in your journey now, if it's okay, Jaspal Singh, what I'd like to do is go back a little. Now, could you just share a little bit with the audience? Now, your humble background obviously, you came from India as a family, and you've been around in Peterborough for quite some time, but would you just share a little bit of light about how long you've been actually in England and how old you were? That'd be really wonderful, because it's amazing to hear.
Yep. I think we have to go to my home city of Amritsar, where I was born in 1953.
Wow.
And we arrived via the Suez Canal, may I say so. In them days, we arrived in Birmingham in 1955, so I was just under 2 years of age when we arrived.
1955?
Yes.
Wow. And actually you took what we call the journey of the Suez Canal, which is, I mean, we can talk about it today, but you lived it.
Having said that, I don't remember any of that journey because I was only 2 years old. But arriving in Birmingham, we settled in a little area called Ladywood. Whether you, obviously all those people from Birmingham know where I'm talking about. Yeah. And we settled in a little house, which is a 2-bedroom house. And I was fortunate in them days, in my grandfathers were there and my uncles were there. And we came with my 2 elder sisters and my older brother. So my father, my mother, Makhan Singh and Mahinder Kaur, who were my father and mother, and my 2 elder sisters and my older brother, Kalwant Singh. So there was 4 children and 2 parents, obviously, coming to Birmingham.
So literally the 6 of you took this journey all the way over in some kind of what we call, you had to trust this journey, right? I mean, in those days, it used to take nearly 3 months sometimes to get over into the country.
Well, I think not probably quite as long as that, but I think our journey was about 6 weeks, and
wow.
And the ship would stop at certain ports. It was import and export. The tickets were obviously cheaper, and in them days, if we say that we were a well-to-do family, we weren't. We were a very working-class family, as most of the Sikhs were who came from the subcontinent in them days.
Absolutely. So, with yourself, and obviously our science shine some light about once you were here in Peterborough, and there's some lovely jovial stories about your dad and my dad specifically, and my uncle as well, my Thayaji. But before we get to that, just touch a little bit on what was it like to grow up in Birmingham in the 50s, really?
Well, to be quite honest with you, Sukhi, it was difficult starting infant school at the age of 5, and my brother and my sisters. And in them days, the schools were segregated. Would you believe? The girls had a separate school, the boys had a separate school in that area. And we found it very, very difficult. I mean, some of the kids in our classroom thought we were aliens. They'd never seen young Sikh boys. We would have our hair tied in a knot. Very few youngsters wore the patka in them days, which was the covering. You'd wear
what I'm wearing right now. If you can see in the video, yes. Right.
You'd wear a handkerchief over your hair, and at that age, it was difficult. But one of the ways we found that you could get over that is if you integrated well within the local population. Basically, if you were good at sport, if you were good at education, you were taken into the community much easier.
That's a really, really important point there, because we can say that the integration was kind of slow and soft, but the reality is that it was quite a harsh environment. But it was also, if you can look at the both sides of the coin, it was kind of, as you said, you felt like you were seen as aliens. You know, somebody who's completely, what's going on over here? Where are these guys? You know, these guys with their hair in a circular knot on the top of their head, and then covered it with a white hanky, because I had that myself as well. So we all grew up in the same way. But it wasn't quite the same, because I think I got it off lightly in my 70s and 80s. I think, do you know, what was the hardship that you actually really faced at the time?
Well, I think we paved the way for you guys to come. I think
definitely.
We made it a little bit easier for you. A lot of the youngsters wanted to actually see what was under the handkerchief. So was always those little brawls in the playground. But after a little while, the children found out we were exactly the same as them. We didn't cut our hair, but we were exactly the same. We bled the same colour blood, we had the same eyes, and etc. And we got on well. So we did pave the way. There were difficult times, but there was a lot more genuine trust and love in people back in the 50s and 60s. I remember my mum actually leaving some money out on the doorstep for the milkman.
Oh wow!
For the coalman. Most people used to have coal in them days. The coalman would come once a week, and he'd empty that bag of coal in the cellar. Would go down the cellar, fill up the bucket, and back upstairs to the fire. And there was that trust element, which unfortunately it's not about. It
has diminished, hasn't it, a little bit? So now the story that you're telling me about the coal and stuff, it's before my time. But my brother, who's a similar sort of age to yourself, a bit younger than you, but he regularly used to mention the same sort of stories as well, about how much trust there was. Just leaving, you know, in those days, a £1 note was quite an established amount of currency. So he'd leave it in the actual bottle outside, and nobody would move it. Is that right?
Well, that's correct. And the bus fare to school, Sukhi, I mean, there was the 4 of us when we went to school. We could go to school on 1 penny, so it was a farthing each bus fare for 4 of us.
1 penny! Wow! 1 penny for 4 children.
There was 4 farthings in a penny, 240 pennies to the pound.
240 pennies?
Yes, to the pound. And the obviously money went a long way, but then obviously the wages and salaries were relative. So, but I think in them days, once we got over that area and period, things developed. There was more Asians and Sikhs coming into England. The acceptance and the I don't like the word tolerance, but it was actually, we were tolerated better as we integrated into the society.
So that's an amazing way of putting it through, because obviously there's a politically correct way of saying it, but the reality is that it was an element of tolerance as well. But I appreciate that. So if we speed up a little bit further forward, because that was through the 50s and your junior schools, and when 4 of you were together. If you forward on maybe another 5 to 10 years, maybe something significant, you know, at the time when you decided that, because obviously I can clearly see that you were very, very gifted when it comes to academics. So in that scenario, when did you actually, I mean, For this point, this is an Empower Hour. Okay, so this is about inner empowerment. We discussed this very briefly. For the audience listening around the world, I just want everybody to understand that it doesn't make a difference where you come from. A very, very humble background, as this gentleman I have in front of me, an inspiring gentleman, nonetheless, in very deep manner, is actually here sharing with yourself. And I'm going to ask about more adversities. Obviously, there was daily adversity when it comes to a little bit of racial tension, but more importantly about non-understanding, you know. And once that acceptance of realization that everybody bled the same, moved forward the same, is so beautifully put. I'm going to pose a question that will probably help us a little bit. Do get involved. You know, remember that we have WhatsApp, Facebook Live. Do get in touch. Do connect and do ask any questions that you would like to go. In the vein of empowerment, Jaspal Singh, so what I'd like to say is that when was the time, what specifically was it that changed your mindset from, you know, we have to move from being a child on the receiving end of something to somebody who actually starts to achieve something based upon a self-identity. You've achieved so much. So could you possibly look back and think, what significantly was it? Was it the makeup of your parenting? Was it the bond you had with your siblings? Was it both? Or also, was it the sheer fact that maybe you took on self-responsibility a little bit earlier or more?
Well, I think, Sukhi, the change came when we got to the fourth year in them days, when you go on to further education in your fifth year. Okay. And in them days, the education was CSEs, O-levels and A-levels. Mm-hmm. And there was a member of our community in Birmingham who actually had a radio and TV shop, and he was the only Sikh, as far as I know, in that area who was qualified with the City and Guilds in radio and TV. And we used to go into his shop in the weekend, watch him repair TVs, watch him work with radios. And I thought, well, I think I'll become a radio and TV engineer. Mm-hmm. So I went, in my fourth year, I then went to an interview with Lucas. Mm-hmm.
Lucas is the electrical company?
Yeah. And I said, I want an apprenticeship for a TV engineer. And they said, well, have you got any CSEs? And I said, well, what are they? Mm-hmm. And they said, well, that's Certificate of Secondary Education, and we need a CSE in English and maths and a couple of others. So I went back to my headmistress, and she said, well, you can stay on another year at school if you wish, mm-hmm. and take the exams. My father was a salesman, and he'd travelled the world. He'd actually been to the Channel Islands quite a lot.
Oh, wow.
And he was he had a peddler's certificate, so a very working class family, hard working class family. And when I mentioned this to my parents, they said, well, really, do you want to go down that route? Why don't you help in the family, help your dad with the selling? But my mother was very understanding. She said, well, she talked to my dad and said, well, let him have a year, and then he'll be starting this apprenticeship, and you do get paid whilst you're actually doing an apprenticeship.
I've got to say, that is truly forward-thinking, because for your mum, my Masiji, which is my aunt, but for your mum to actually turn around and actually stand in evidence of the possibilities of you actually taking 1 year, let him have his 1 year, he'll get paid in that place, I think that's just amazingly forward-thinking.
And then what happened was, okay, is I actually took my CSEs, and in them days, if you got a grade 1 in a CSE, that counted as an O-level pass.
Got it. So just to clarify for the listeners, CSEs and O-levels are before the time of GCSEs, which came into the 1980s, and A-levels. So it's a similar sort of qualification. In some cases, I'm not going to ask this question, I'll get into that space of the debate. It could even be harder, because now it seems to be a little bit easier. So I'm saying that because I'm getting on the other side of 40 as well. So there we are. Back to yourself, sorry.
Well, I will agree with you. I think they were harder in them days.
Yes.
If you failed, you failed. You couldn't retake. Obviously, you could retake later. But anyway, I got a few grade 1s, and my headmistress called me up one day and she said, do you really want to be a radio and TV engineer? You've got grade 1s which count as O-levels, and therefore you can actually skip a year and go and straight and do your A-levels.
Oh, wow.
And then I mentioned this to my mother again, and my mother then had a word with my father, and he was getting quite proud, because from a working class background, if you had somebody in your family who was educated, that meant an awful lot. That really meant a lot. My parents, my father, he could speak 5 or 6 different languages fluently.
Wow.
But never been to school, self-taught. And he was becoming a little bit sort of quite keen on this idea of his son going forward. So anyway,
you shined. In other words, you showed that you could achieve, and more importantly, that was a nice way forward as well, and that the adoration, the pride, and the love of having you in the family at that stage paving the way. So
it did pay off, and as I said, I did the A levels, and I think I got about 5 A levels, and then we went to university, and in between time we actually moved to Peterborough in 72, 73.
Wow.
And as I said, that was another change in my life, which is quite a pleasant one. Obviously, it was difficult to move from Birmingham, where you've grown up with your relatives and friends, and it was probably more difficult for my parents. Unfortunately, my father died here in 74, and that was quite a tough time, because he actually died 2 or 3 days before my wedding. So we had to actually put the wedding back for another year to 1975. But the community were very supportive in Peterborough at that time, and I think we're very fortunate, Sukhi, if I may say so, not only the Sikh community, but the communities in them days, whether you were Muslim, Hindu, Sikh, Christian, they were all very supportive and very connected to each other back in the 70s.
That's just so beautiful to hear. So just to touch base again, now you've moved into Peterborough, and you've taken a step, and you're also not only qualifying yourself in university, the community as a whole. The important part is you actually lost your dad, which obviously can take a massive breadwinning, income-bearing individual. Besides the income side of things, the full support after moving to a new city. So there's a whole massive change here. So disparity, anybody who's listening out there who's having a similar circumstance themselves, or have had a big upheaval in life, there is light. There is light at the end of the tunnel. Now, we've only got the last 3 minutes, but I'm so fascinated with this. It's just beautiful. And then we're going to go for a little break, but do not leave, because we're going to be talking a lot more about the current achievements of what Dr. Jaspal Singh has actually achieved, and how he has changed lives of others, which is really important to us all. So back to yourself. In 1975, now you've also taken the journey of into marriage. Yes.
Yes.
So what's next? What happens in your life? I mean, you've been self-propelled. You've sadly lost an elder, which so beautifully said right at the start is an elder to the whole community. And I do appreciate that. Actually, I remember in 1974, my dad was mentioning, I don't remember personally, but my dad was mentioning how close he was to your father as well, and how he used to be sitting and waiting en route to the Gurdwara, to actually, when the Gurdwara was being converted at that particular time. And so they had a lovely bond as well. So it's beautiful to see the community stuck together. So what were the next steps in your life? I mean, to jump into doctorates of ophthalmy, into optics, is such an amazing achievement.
Well, I had an offer to go to Manchester University, which I took up, and my undergraduate studies were at Manchester University, and following that I went to the Manchester Royal Eye Hospital, where I did my postgraduates, and I attained 3 fellowships.
Wow.
And that was an amazing place, Manchester, and obviously my family was still living in Peterborough. I would commute between Manchester and here, and I was supported really well by my mother once again, and also my older brother, Kalwan Singh, who was actually a qualified mechanic.
We're in our last 1 minute, so yes, please carry on.
And both of those supported me very well throughout, and of course my wife Lakvinda also, and the family. I'm from a big family, 5 brothers and 5 sisters.
We're going to be talking more about that just in a moment on the break. Sorry to interrupt you there a second, but I'm just going to synopsize this. This is an amazingly humble journey, and what I call a working class, and as Jaspal Singh, as I said himself, is that it's a working class environment, and actually moving the whole of the family to the next generation into another leveraged environment. So please don't forget to stay with us. There's going to be 4 minutes of advertising, and we're going to come straight back at 7:30, and we're going to be back on Salam Radio, the Empower Hour. We're enjoying our time here with Dr Jaspal Singh. Good night, and we'll see you very shortly. Please do not forget to tune back in. We are going to have the most amazing time. See you shortly.
Stay tuned to Salam Radio after this short ad break.
It does not take much to bring some difference. You give some change, which makes a change, because nothing gets mileage like a charity. Just a little change turns into a chain, and before we know it, the results are massive. So give a little to make a big difference. To give donations, call UKIM on 0207 387 2157.
Need a great place to chill out? Look no further than The Lounge for quality food and drinks at a great price. Try our varied menu: pasta, seafood, burgers, grills, salad, soup, rice and sides. Also hot and cold drinks, milkshakes and mocktails. Leave room for our exquisite desserts. The Lounge, 417 Lincoln Road, Peterborough. Call 01733 709 306 to order for delivery. The Lounge, friendly service with a great atmosphere.
दोस्ता की परेशान है
जरा कर है ना सारा सौदा मुक्या वा मुल्का विच पैसे भेजने
हूं नहीं मार फूड वाले की फोन खड़का ते फ्री लोकल डिलीवरी कार मंगवा
अला ता उथे कै स्पेशल आ
उना की लबाई हाइजीन च ग्रेड 5 चीजें चंगियां मियारी ते सस्तियां ते नाले ऑफर ही ऑफर
और क्या
ताजा गोश्त ताजी सब्जियां ते फ्रूट आटा चावल दाला मसाले ते जूस सारे बिल जमा करने गैस ते इलेक्ट्रिक ने टॉप अप भी करने पाकिस्तान पैसे बिल्कुल फ्री भेजने मतलब के एक चिड़ी ने दूध छड़ी ते हर शय लबनी
जने ने आप उतरा
Amar Food Store and Halal Meat, 613B Lincoln Road, Peterborough. Telephone 01733 687374.
Imagine if you had access to NHS GP services outside of your surgery's normal hours. With the Peterborough GP Hub, you can. Based at the Peterborough Medical Centre on Craig Street, PE1 2EJ, the GP Hub is run by local surgeries and offers weekend and evening appointments for patients registered with a GP in the greater Peterborough area. Booking an appointment is really easy. Simply call your surgery as normal and ask for an appointment at the GP Hub. Visit greaterpeterborough.gps.nhs.uk for more information.
Do you own a restaurant or takeaway? Cater Fair is an expert supplier of new and used commercial catering equipment. Visit caterfair.co.uk for quality equipment on sale at the lowest prices, or call us on 01733 310 115 or visit us at 11 Royce Road, Fengate, Peterborough.
My name is Khalid Siddiq.
I'm Saif Adam.
Assalamu alaikum, this is Baraka Blue.
Yo, this is your boy Harris J, and make sure you guys stay tuned to Salam Radio 106.2 FM.
The messenger of God, peace be upon him, said, "Anyone who possesses three qualities finds thereby the sweetness of faith, that he loves God and his messenger, peace be upon him, more than anything else. That when he loves a human being, he loves him for God's sake alone, and that he abhors returning to unbelief from which God has rescued him, as he abhors being thrown into the fire."
Narrated by Anas in the collections of Bukhari and Muslim.
Father, oh Father, why do you do it? Why
Peterborough's community radio station, Salam Radio 106.2 FM.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Empower Hour here in Peterborough on Salam Radio 102.6 FM, 106.2 FM, I do apologise. And also, if you can watch it live here on Facebook, which is Facebook Live on Salam Radio, also on YouTube Live on Salam Radio. So please tune in future every single Tuesday evening between 7 and 8 o'clock live with empowering, inspiring business political, and just individuals who have absolutely created depths of change in their own worlds. So today we are absolutely graced with an amazing pleasure of having Dr Jaspal Singh, who is the Deputy Lord Lieutenant of Cambridgeshire. Now, we've had an amazing conversation of how Jaspal Singh actually came to the UK, the journey he's taken to come to Peterborough from Birmingham. Now I'm just going to hark back, if I may. Welcome back, Jaspal Singh. How are you?
Fine, thank you, Sukhi.
Thank you very much. Perfect. So now, just to hark back, if you were following, if you've missed the earlier conversation, please do just rewind and watch it again on Facebook and listen again on online. The conversation we were having, we were just getting to a stage where you just got married, and the key question which we were asking was, you've come from a working class, but a very hard working family. So you lost your father, sadly, and now you had an elder brother who was very, very instrumental in your life as well for support, 2 older sisters, and your mum. You got married in 1975. So the question I'm going to just ask yourself, when did you find within yourself that inner spirit? Because I haven't even started with your achievements, Jaspal Singh. So when did you find that inner switch that really made you feel self-aware to realize and achieve the best you could possibly in your life?
Well, Sukhi, I think there wasn't a eureka moment. I think it's a gradual process.
Wow.
It's a stepwise process.
That's beautiful to hear for the listeners, that you're not going to have a click your fingers and things are just going to become brilliant in that. So that's very warming and very what I call it's very, very humbling to realize that you can take your time. So please carry on. Sorry.
It's basically hard work, I think, is the underlying theme here. I mean, following graduation, I actually worked in the Manchester Royal Eye Hospital as a consultant ophthalmic practitioner.
Wow.
And from there, with the fellowships, I actually enjoyed the education in Manchester, because it was a very active time in ophthalmology in Manchester at that time. And following Manchester, I came back to Peterborough. I took over a practice. You may know of Dr Barling, who was the senior ophthalmologist in Peterborough.
Yes, I do. Yes,
and
very young, but I can remember him. Yes.
And he died, and his practice was on Thorpe Road, opposite the A&E. And I actually took that over. I think it was in 1982, 83.
Oh wow!
And from there, I've had a private clinic since in Peterborough.
So your current private clinic, I mean, that's an amazing achievement within itself. I mean, 1982. We are now in 2019. So you've been in this industry for over 40 years. From earlier than that, in the 70s, of being a doctorate in the environment. So. That's just amazing. I can always remember every time I saw you turn up at the Temple in your beautiful white BMW 7 Series. And it was always one year, one after the other, one after the other. It was like a set standard. So I could see the consistency of your choice in life.
Well, actually, Sukhi, I have a Peugeot 308 at the moment.
Proudly?
Must confess. It's like all the things you go through your bicycles, and you end up to the one you started off with. And I started off with a Moggy 1000 at university, which I loved, and I've enjoyed the BMWs and etc. But I'm now basically a very humble person at heart. In all aspects, I look upon my car as getting me from A to B, and getting my family safely where we wish to travel.
That's so beautiful, so beautiful. And we've had many guests on this program, the Empower Hour, and there seems to be a signature across all, that the ones who have actually truly achieved and landed are the ones who have truly achieved and landed within themselves. So humility takes a real strong presence in there. So beautiful to hear that. And just in case the listeners, because we have a lot of international listeners as well, the Moggy is a Morris Minor, and that was actually a 1 litre Morris Minor, which was quite a substantial vehicle in the days, trust me. Sorry to interrupt you there, because I thought I'd give the information back to yourself, please, Jaspal.
Well, I think the Moggy 1000, if I may also add, you could actually get a whole football team if you packed them in carefully.
You know, goodness gracious me is going through the mind just there.
This is what we used to do in Manchester. But just going back to the employment side, I've, as I say, enjoyed full employment, although I'm actually now in part-time employment. I am 65 years of age. I've done a lot of hard work, but I still continue to do part-time. I believe in actually earning my keep, and this is part of the principles of my faith: worship, work and charity, which is the three basic principles Sikhism is based on.
That's superb. And just to touch a little bit more on the journey you've taken to this position right now, even at age 65, you know, you're still an icon within the community of working, and as I understand, you're still very much integrated within all aspects of community. Now, I wish an hour is just not long enough to spend time with yourself, but I'm just going to speed up a little bit and have a few real keen questions. I'm also aware that, Jaspal Singh, you actually are the chair, or been involved in Interfaith for nearly 30 years, but you're actually been the chair for 20 years. So this is the Interfaith Council in Peterborough. Would you, I mean, I can remember my father, Mr. Randiwai, were mentioning the Interfaith Council way back in the 70s and 80s, but please help us understand what exactly, that's such a coveted role, but what exactly does the Interfaith Council do?
Well, it started off, Sukhi, back in 1978 by Richard Payton. You might have heard of Richard Payton. Richard Payton, absolutely. Payton Wines, everybody's heard of Payton Wines. And there was Leslie Mathias and Derek Duncanson, who was a local vicar. These three Christians, may I say so, would actually meet once a month, and they would meet with either a Sikh one month or a Muslim another month, have cups of tea, just very, very basic.
Informal.
Informal. And then this carried on until about the 1990s, late 90s, and in fact in this very building, which used to be the Cambridgeshire County Council building, I was once invited to give a little talk on Sikhism, which I did, and then they asked me, would you like to become a member of the Peterborough Interfaith Council? And I said no, because I don't have time. I'm a professional person, I like to play my sport. And anyway, the following week I got a letter through my door: congratulations, Jaspal, you become a member of the Peterborough Interfaith Council.
So no wasn't taken as an answer.
So, and this is how it started. So they actually made me vice chair in the late 90s, and then they asked me, look, can you actually resurrect this for us, because the Peterborough Interfaith Council had more or less folded. So I took a leading role in the Peterborough Interfaith Council, and we restructured the whole council, where we actually invited people from the 6 major faiths in Peterborough to join to form a committee. And we also invited later on, back in 2008, I think it was, a member from the Peterborough City Council to form links with the Interfaith Council, so that the local government are aware of what we are doing, and we are aware and can hopefully influence what the government are doing.
I understand now. So it's about the integration level at local level, to take it into the international, to the national government level.
And Peterborough Interfaith Council was respected so much that we asked for a certain member from the City Council, and we got the Chief Executive herself, who has been a honorary member on the Peterborough Interfaith Council.
So wonderful.
And from there it's become a very well respected body. We concentrate on faith and community cohesion. We're a voluntary organisation. A lot of hard work is done by all the faith members. I've been trying to get away from the position of chair every year, but unfortunately I haven't been able to do that for the last 20.
Well, I'm afraid that when you do the job very well, with sincerity and integrity, that it's very hard to replace that those sort of values and within the community as well.
And just to add to that, Sukhi, I think we're also very blessed in Peterborough that we have very good relations between the different faith and cultures and the communities. So it makes my job a lot easier.
I truly agree. I mean, I have never seen any disparity or differences between the faiths and communities. Just due to time, because I still want to cover a little bit more. We haven't even touched on your current position as well as what you're currently up to as well. And I know that you were 5-time the president of the Peterborough Sikh Temple, so that's an amazing coveted conversation as well, and I think you're probably on the table again, from my understanding, which I think is the right action as well. So in context of this, I'm going to share I just want to just help the community and the people who are listening, the empowerment of coming from such a humble background to where you are in the heightened, soaring like an eagle today, and continuing, because you're not taking it easy. You believe in keeping, earning your keep, which is girt, which is basically an honest earning. Today, you are the deputy. You have been appointed by Her Majesty herself as the Deputy Lord Lieutenant of Cambridgeshire. For our listeners today, I just want you to understand, I am sitting in front of somebody who's appointed by the Queen herself, and I'd like to just share from a humble base. I'm so proud to be a part of the Sikh community and the Peterborough community, born and bred here, and to have you here on the actual radio show, our Empowerment Hour. You truly are empowering and very, very much what we call a person who's humbly leading the way forward. So thank you for that, for being here yourself. Can you just tell us, we've got maybe 10-15 minutes left of what does that mean? What are some of your duties? Because it's not just a job, it's a duty.
Well, Sukhi, to be quite honest with you, when I actually got an invitation through the door from Buckingham Palace. I think this was last January in 2018. I was invited to meet Her Majesty the Queen in an evening dinner, and also to meet Prince Charles and Camilla. And there was my name on the invitation. My wife, first of all, she said, "Where's my name?" And I said, "Well, I will ring up." So I had a little funny feeling. I thought, is this true? Why am I invited? So I rang up Buckingham Palace, the household. There was a telephone number, and they said, unfortunately, the invitation is only for yourself. You can't bring anybody with you, and it's just for yourself, etc., etc. There was lots of conditions attached to the visit. So anyway, I went by train and I went to Buckingham Palace, and I must confess, and hopefully my relatives and my friends in Birmingham, hopefully you are listening to this, will actually agree with me. Coming from that background, where in them days you could actually get on a bus and get off one stop earlier, and you would have a cheaper fare, and controlling your finances to the T, and then for somebody going to Buckingham Palace, I actually cried when I went there. I had tears in my eyes, and when I went there, and I was very overawed, to be quite honest with you. And meeting Her Majesty the Queen, I think she had a different aura. She was somebody special. She was somebody very, very different. Very polite. She spoke with me. We had a conversation, asked me where I was from, what the Peterborough Interfaith Council, what professionally do I do, and meeting Prince Charles and Camilla, and it was a fantastic event. And then I didn't really understand why I'd been invited there. And it was only a week later I got a letter through the door from Buckingham Palace that congratulations, you have been appointed Deputy Lord Lieutenant of Cambridgeshire.
So hang on a second, you've gone there and you don't actually know why you're even invited.
No.
So you're just going there as a humble old Mr. Jaspal Singh from Peterborough, Dr Jaspal Singh, and you're thinking, why am I here? And you've got a little inkling, maybe it's to do with the Interfaith Council, but a week later, they don't tell you on the night.
No.
So a week later, they decide to tell you, by the way, by letter again, that you're appointed.
Yes. I had a feeling perhaps they wanted to look at me, who I was, how I spoke, the mannerism. Obviously, when I tell you, I actually didn't know what the Lord Lieutenant means. So before I said yes, I actually did my homework. I had a meeting with the Lord Lieutenant herself, and I didn't say yes, and she explained what it actually means and what it actually is, Sukhi. When it's now sunk in, it's the personal representative of Her Majesty the Queen.
Oh my goodness!
And I feel very overawed sometimes at first regarding the position, and it came to light in the town hall in the mayor making in Peterborough last year. And there's a special uniform, I think, which you've seen.
I have seen it, yes, with the beautiful tail.
Yes, and the sword, etc. And I did point this out to them that, look, I'm a Sikh, I'm a practicing Sikh, I shall retain my turban, and the badge of honour which you have given me, I will wear it on my turban, which I do, as you've probably seen in the picture. Yes. When we went there was, I think there was about 26 mayors from around the counties, the MPs, councillors, and we had to actually leave the town hall and go to the cathedral.
Okay.
And I was somewhere in the middle, and they said, no, Dr. Singh, you have to be at the front. I said, well, no, the mayors and the MPs are at the front. And they said, no, you actually are representing Her Majesty the Queen. Everybody else follows you.
Oh my goodness. Now, I've just got to say this to yourself. Somebody who's come from, as you said a moment ago, from the streets of Birmingham into Peterborough in such a humble way, is now leading the council in essence because he's representing the Queen. Wow. Just truly amazing.
So I was really taken aback by that, and
so would I.
and it was frightening, to be honest with you. It was frightening, but I have performed a few ceremonies, and I'm just gradually getting used to it. And the highlight was the 100th anniversary of the armistice.
I was just going to say to yourself, I proudly wear, and I can remember that you were fully involved in the whole of the ceremony.
And I was appointed to do the Whittlesea programme, and I think all of Whittlesea turned out, and it was a fantastic day and a great remembrance for all those who had lost their lives in the First and Second World Wars.
God bless you. Absolutely. Proudly so. So, what are the duties? What are the duties that you have to you have to take control of and be a part of?
Well, I think there's quite a few, Sukhi. I think I think what we have to remember is when Her Majesty the Queen is invited to a function, and she could be invited to civic ceremonies, she could be invited to religious ceremonies, and if she cannot attend, she will send her Lord Lieutenant or the Deputy Lord Lieutenant of that county in her place.
Makes sense.
And there is a protocol which has to be followed wherever you invite the Lord Lieutenant or the Deputy Lord Lieutenant, because he takes precedence over all the other guests in sitting, in parading, and
as a representative of the Queen.
Of the Queen herself. I have been, but I'm fairly humble and straightforward in my approach, as I'm sure you know yourself.
Truly.
But there is certain protocol which I have to follow, and as I say, with Whittlesea, I think the highlight was when the bands marched past at the end of the ceremony, and they all saluted me standing on a little box in the middle of Whittlesea Street with a crown on that box, and I was very honoured and privileged, but my heart is still obviously in that place of humbleness.
Do you know, this is so beautiful, and I'm sure all of you who are listening tonight, and I know we've got about 5 minutes left of an amazing conversation we're having with Dr Jaspal Singh, the Deputy Lord Lieutenant of Cambridgeshire. I hope you're enjoying it as I am as well. I'm truly enjoying this journey on Salam Radio with the Empower Hour, showing people how to take themselves from a place of possible need when one wants a child coming into the country, into the amazing journey from Birmingham to Peterborough, and also then back into Manchester where you took 3 fellowship controls as well, and finished your doctorate, and today, since 1982, being a person who's been a practicing ophthalmist and optometrist as well, and having to be able to represent the Queen herself. For all our international listeners and viewers, because obviously we're viewing these days on Facebook and YouTube, this has been an amazing journey for me personally, and just wanted to share that with everybody. It really has been a humble honour to have you on tonight here, Jaspal Singh. But we've still got another 5-6 minutes. Something I'd like to just open our hearts to everybody else and just ask you something really simple. There must be what we call those times that you're having those moments yourself, and you doubt, as you said, the time when you were travelling in the train and you thought, what's happening here? Somebody from the humble background of being in Birmingham, now sitting here on the train going to the Buckingham Palace itself and seeing the Queen, having those moments when you actually, at some stage, you resigned to the fact that this is true now, and I am of a royal capacity in face. What message would you send to the next generation who might be listening to this? Because this is the Empowerment Hour. This is what the focus of all the work that I do over the years, over nearly 50,000 viewers and listeners, with God's blessings. But what is the message you want to share?
Well, I think, first of all, there is the fate element. I think we should not forget that. One's fate can be foreseen, could be foretold, it could be written in stone, but I think we can actually change things as well according to our lifestyle. And I think that is important, is hard work, trust, and being honest. And obviously I think as a person of faith, I believe this position. I personally don't think that I've actually done anything. I've not done anything. I believe that this position is actually a gift. It is a very, very precious gift, and not everybody can have it, and it's a gift which I really are very thankful for. Thankful for to the Almighty, and being a person of faith, I always say to people of faith is be strong in your own faiths, practice your own faiths as you are taught. And also respect other faiths and have that cohesion between you, all human beings. And the other message, I think, and I think we could touch on things like kindness, and I've had this, and I believe, and I've said this in many talks, that kindness, I believe, is a language which the blind can read and the deaf can hear.
That is such a powerful quote. Kindness is a language that the blind can see and the deaf can hear. If any of you are listening, that's actually given me a shiver and a vibration down my back. That's so poignant for now. Thank you very much. Please continue.
And I think kindness should be brought into your daily life. It should be brought into your workplace, and the good thing about it, Sukhi, it doesn't cost anything to be kind.
Truly.
It's absolutely free of charge. You can be kind to that person crossing the road. You can be kind to your employer or employee. It doesn't cost you anything. And the weight of that kindness is immeasurable.
Immeasurable. And do you believe then in that context? We've only got a few minutes. I can't believe how quickly this has actually passed. I've thoroughly enjoyed myself, and I hope you have as well. Just the word kindness resonates from love, and faith as a whole. It's not about just a religious faith. It's about a belief in something. Is that correct?
And I think the kindness and the love doesn't necessarily have to be in people of faith. It can be also in people of non-faith as well.
Absolutely.
It's a human gift, and I think this is what we could do with a little more of. We have in Peterborough, I must say this, we have a problem with homelessness. We have increasing food banks, and in the 21st century, a G8 country shouldn't really be looking at problems of this nature.
I truly agree.
And just finally, I think I'd like to mention the integration and strategy. Peterborough is very fortunate that it's been chosen as one of the 5 cities in the UK to put the policies of the government of integration and strategy into place.
Right, I didn't know that. So Peterborough is little old Peterborough.
Little Old Peterborough, and
wow.
there is work being done on that. I am actually on the board of the Peterborough Partnership.
There's 1 minute left, so I want to make sure we cover this fully. Yeah.
Yep, and it's a feather in the caps of the public of Peterborough and Greater Peterborough that we have been chosen as one of the 5 cities in the UK.
So that's just wonderful to hear. I do apologise, I'm having to speed or cut the conversation, but we're down to the last 30 seconds. Can you believe it, team? I mean, everybody, the listeners around the globe, when you're listening to this particular Empower Hour and the Salam Radio with Sukhi Wahiwala and Dr Jaspal Singh, the Deputy Lord Lieutenant of Cambridgeshire, appointed directly by the Queen. What an amazing, humble achievement in this environment. And I'm sure you have all genuinely enjoyed this journey we've had the last hour. But I must say one thing. Personally, I am blown away by the level of humility that you deliver and how you've created the change. Tonight, you have definitely empowered myself and empowered, I'm sure, all the listeners. And what a brilliant way to come back in 2019. Thank you very much, Dr. Jaspal.
Sukhi, thank you very much for having me, and may I wish
your number one for local, national and international news across Cambridgeshire and Peterborough on 106.2 FM and around the world online. This